Chapter 16. Feasting on juicy peaches, Minley and the dragon walked through the woods for many days. At night, when the dragon slept, Minley missed Ma and Ba. "But this is for our fortune, so they don't have to work so hard anymore," Minley told herself when she thought about the worry they must have been feeling. "When I get back, Ba can rest and Ma will never have to sigh again. They'll see." But the lonely moon never seemed to gaze comfortably down on her. One day, Minley and the dragon came upon the body of water. In the distance, they saw the woods continue. As the compass pointed across the water, the dragon swam the inlet with Minley riding on his back. "How far do we have to go before we get to Never-Ending Mountain?" the dragon asked. "Well," Minley said slowly, "the fish said to go west until I reached the city of bright moonlight. Once there, I'm supposed to find the guardian of the city." "The guardian?" Dragon said. "Who is that?" "I'm not sure," Minley said. "The king of the city, I guess. Once I find him, I'm supposed to ask for the borrowed line, which, according to the fish, is something I'll need for Never-Ending Mountain." "The borrowed line?" the dragon asked. "What is that?" "I don't know," Minley said. "The fish didn't tell me." "You did not ask?" The dragon stopped, almost swimming in surprise. "I didn't want to delay her," Minley said. "She was in a rush." The dragon shook his head and opened his mouth to say something when they both heard a strange sound next to them in the water. "Aunt Jin! Aunt Jin!" a voice said. "Is that you? You came back like you said." Dragon and Minley looked in the water and saw a large orange fish with a black fin swimming next to them. It looked a lot like Minley's goldfish, but larger. "I think you have me mixed up with someone else," Minley said to the fish. "I was speaking to the dragon," the fish said. "But you must not be Aunt Jin either." "Well," the dragon looked down at the fish with a wry smile. "Either one of us would be a very strange relative to you, fish. Why did you think I was your aunt?" "Because Aunt Jin always said she would come back to show us that the Dragon Gate was real," the fish said. "What do you mean?" Minley asked. "Dragon Gate? What's that?" The story of the Dragon Gate. Even though no fish has seen the Dragon Gate, we all know about it. Perhaps the story was told to us through the waves of water while we were eggs, or whispered to us by the roots of the lotus flowers. We all know that somewhere in one of the rivers of the land there is a great and powerful waterfall. It is so high and so fast that it is as if water were gushing from a cut in the heavens. At the top of that waterfall, beyond anyone's view, is the Dragon Gate. The Dragon Gate is an entryway to the sky. It is old, so old that it's possible that the gray stone columns grew from the mountain it stands on. Wind and time have worn and smoothed the gate's tiered placards that barely show the old carvings of the 5 colored clouds of heaven. Above the placards are the tiled arches, the same color as the misty sky. 999 small dragon ornaments perch on the ridges of those tiled roofs. Each one is intricately formed to the smallest detail, and, even weathered as they are, the black pearl eyes still flash with a mysterious power. That is because these dragons are not mere decoration. They hold the secret to the Dragon Gate. For if ever a fish is able to swim up the waterfall and pass through the gate, the dragons will shake with power. As the fish goes through, its spirit enters the gate and bursts out of one of the ornaments, changing the fish into the form of a flying dragon. So the Dragon Gate transforms fish into dragons, a wish many of us hold deep in our hearts, the fish finished. None know who first told the story or if it is even a story at all, but Aunt Jin was determined to find out. She said she was going to search all the rivers of the land for it, and if she found it, she'd come back here as a dragon to show us. That's why I thought you might be her." "Did your aunt look like you?" Minley asked. "Orange with a black fin?" "Yes," the fish said, "but much smaller, the size of a copper coin." "It doesn't seem likely that a fish that small could swim up a waterfall," Dragon said. "Even if she does find the right river, she might not be able to get to the gate." "If there is a gate, Aunt Jin will find a way through it," the fish said. "She's very wise. If you knew her, you'd understand." "Maybe I do know her," Minley said softly, thinking hard about the goldfish she'd set free. Could it be that her goldfish, who had swum up all the rivers except one, had been Jin, searching for the dragon gate? "If you are not Aunt Jin," the fish said to the dragon, interrupting Minley's thoughts, "why are you swimming across the river? Why don't you just fly?" "He can't fly," Minley answered for the dragon when she saw his discomfort. "We are going to see the Old Man of the Moon to ask him how to change that, but we have to cross the river to get to the City of Bright Moonlight first." "Old Man of the Moon?" the fish said. "Good luck! Finding him will be harder than finding the dragon gate." Minley and the dragon looked at each other and shrugged. "But the City of Bright Moonlight is just past the forest over there," the fish continued. "Swim over to this side and you can see it in the distance." And just as the fish said, Minley and the dragon saw the city. An enormous wall, like a giant patchwork curtain of stone, surrounded the thousands of houses in the city. And almost glowing with the splendor of its red columns and golden tops, a palace stood up over the clusters of buildings in the far center. Like a glorious boat floating above the waves of the scalloped rooftop tiles. Even from a distance, the city looked majestic. "If you are stopping at the City of Bright Moonlight," the fish continued, "I think Dragon here should probably try to stay hidden. People of Bright Moonlight might be shocked to see a real dragon. The last dragon sighted was about 100 years ago, and it destroyed the king's father's palace in a city in the east. They might not take too kindly to you." "That is good to know," Minley said. "It might be better if I go into the city by myself." "Yes," the dragon agreed. "I can hide at the edge of the forest and wait for you." "They close the wall at night," the fish said, "so if you're in the city at night, you'll have to stay until morning." "Do not worry," Dragon said to Minley. "I will wait." "Well, you're almost to land," the fish said, "so I'll leave you. If you ever see another dragon, find out if it's my Aunt Jin. Hope you get to meet the Old Man of the Moon. Good luck!" Minley and the dragon watched the fish swim away. Then they made their way to the land and the City of Bright Moonlight. Chapter 17. Minley gulped as she walked toward the gray stone wall of the city. As she passed the 2 stone lions marking the entrance, she glanced behind her. Even though she only saw the trees and shadows, she knew the dragon was hidden there. Quickly, she pushed through the doors of the gate, leaving the forest and the dragon behind her. As the gate closed, Minley stared. The streets were crowded and bustling. The city seemed to be bubbling with people like boiling rice. Vendors selling fruit and shoes called out their wares while people rushed past, some pushing wheelbarrows or balancing baskets on their shoulders. A large muddy water buffalo, led by a boy perhaps a year or 2 older than Minley, wandered through and was ignored as a commonplace occurrence. "Watch out, little mouse," a gruff man said behind her, his baskets of cabbages driving her into the crowd. As she was shoved and pushed, Minley grabbed the arm of the boy with the water buffalo. "Hi," she said. "If I want to see the king, where do I go?" "The king?" The boy looked at her in surprise. "You'd have to go to the palace." "How do I get to the palace?" Minley asked. "Just follow the black stones," the boy said, pointing at the road paved with polished bricks. "They'll lead you to the city." "Wait," Minley said, "isn't this the city? The palace is in another city?" "You must not be from around here," the boy laughed. "The City of Bright Moonlight is divided into 2. This is the outer city where anyone can live and travel. The inner city is where the palace is, where the king and officials live. You have to have permission to go into the inner city. If you don't, you're not going to be able to see the king or the palace. There are thousands of guards protecting the inner city. They won't let anyone through without permission. I'll find a way, Minley said confidently. Thanks. And she let go of the boy's arm and headed toward the black road. However, as Minley got closer to the inner city, she realized the boy was right. The red walls of the inner city loomed tall and forbidding, and every gold-studded gate door was guarded by at least 2 soldiers, their silver armor reflecting in the hot sun. It would be a daunting task just to enter the inner city, much less find the palace and the king. But I must, Minley said to herself. Regardless, the guards' faces were stern and hard, and she quaked inside. If I ask to go in, Minley thought as she hung back amongst the fruit stands and fish vendors, they'll ignore me or force me away with their swords, and either way I won't be able to see the king. What should I do? Not as easy as you thought, huh? A voice said next to her. Minley turned and saw the buffalo boy standing next to her. Minley gave him a wry look. Boys, she thought to herself, always thinking they know everything. Still, she had to admit he was right. She had no idea how she would see the king. They must let people into the inner city sometimes, Minley said. They do, the boy said. Once a year, at the Moon Festival, they open the gates to everyone. What's the Moon Festival? Oh, it already happened, the boy said. You'll have to wait until next year. Minley bit her lip in frustration. What was she going to do? I don't know why you want to go in there so badly, the boy said. The buildings and clothes are nicer, but the people, a bunch of puffed up frogs. At the Moon Festival, one of the stablemen wanted to order me around and thought he could trick me into thinking he was the king. But when I asked why he wasn't wearing a golden dragon, he knew his prank wasn't going to work. Did he think I was stupid? Everyone knows a golden dragon is always and only worn by kings and the emperor. The people in there think we're a bunch of dumb oxen. The buffalo beside the boy gave a snort at that. Sorry, the boy said, patting the buffalo on the nose. You know I didn't mean that. But by this time, the inner city guards had seen them lingering by the gate. You there, kids, one of them barked. Move along. Come on, the boy said, tugging Minley's sleeve. Let's go. Minley followed him and the buffalo. Where are you going? She asked him. I'm going home, he said. You can come too, if you want. And since Minley had no place else to go, she did. Chapter 18. Minley followed the boy through the maze of streets and alleyways for what seemed like a long time. If it wasn't for the big buffalo that was always in view, Minley would have easily lost him many times. Not too far now, the boy said to her. Minley realized that the boy lived very far from the inner city. The road was no longer stone, but dirt. Even from a distance, she could see that the outer city wall was cracked and broken. I live over here, the boy said, pointing. And Minley looked down a muddy path that led to a shabby, rickety hut that looked as if the first strong wind would blow it away. The boy brought the buffalo right into the hut, and Minley went in after. She looked around the small, meager home. The only furnishings Minley could see were 2 wooden crates and a rough stool. On one side of the hut, a crude metal grate stood in the fireplace with a well-worn pot on it. The other half of the hut was divided into 2 piles of dry grass. Minley watched as the buffalo went directly to one pile and lay down. The boy gave it an affectionate slap on the side and dragged the rough wooden stool across the floor to her. Here, have a seat, he said, as he sprawled onto the other pile of grass. And tell me why you want to go to the palace so much. It's not the palace, Minley said as she sat on the stool. I want to see the king. And she told the buffalo boy the whole story. She saw his face wrinkle with disbelief when she talked about the fish, and he shook his head when she told about the dragon. But he didn't interrupt once. "I don't know how you're going to see the king," the boy told her when she finished. "Even if you do see him, I doubt you'll be able to ask for a borrowed line, especially when you don't even know what it is." "But I have to," Minley said. "There must be a way." "Well, I always think better after I've eaten," the boy said, and he stood up and opened one of the crates. "Let's have dinner." While he fried the plain bamboo shoots in the pot over the fireplace, Minley looked around the bare room. "Do you live by yourself?" she asked. "Uh-huh," the boy nodded. "My parents died 4 years ago. Ever since then, it's been me and the buffalo." He spoke almost carelessly, without anger or self-pity. Suddenly, Minley thought about her own home, the wood floor always swept by Ma, the extra blanket Ba put over her when the wind blew cold, and she felt a strange tightness in her throat. The boy finished cooking and pushed the cooked bamboo, like thinly sliced pieces of yellow wood, onto a plate. He only had one plate, so he set it on the stool next to the 3 peaches Minley had left, and both sat cross-legged on the ground. She took out her chopsticks. He only had 1 pair of those as well. And each picked and ate with the stool as a table and the single plate between them. "You don't have any aunts or uncles?" Minley asked. "Other family or friends?" "Well," the boy said, tossed a peach to the buffalo, and then hesitated. "I do have one friend." And Minley was surprised to see his face change unexpectedly. The sharpness of his expression softened like a flower blossoming, his small smile gentle. "Who is it?" Minley asked. The story of the Buffalo Boy's friend. Sometimes during the hot summer days there is not enough water for my buffalo, so I like to take him out of the city into the surrounding forest to drink in the stream there. One day I brought him to the forest and he kept pulling and pushing me away from the stream. No matter what I did, he refused to go in my direction. So finally, I just let him lead the way. And he brought me to a part of the forest I had never seen before, but a part I don't think anyone from the city has ever seen before. The trees seemed to reach the clouds, the green grass felt like a silk blanket, and there was a lake of clear water, so pure and clean, it looked as if it were a piece of the sky. But the most beautiful things there were the 7 girls swimming in it. But when the girls saw me and the buffalo come through the trees, they screamed. They jumped out of the water, grabbed their robes, and ran away. They moved so quickly, it seemed like they had all disappeared into the sky. All except for one, that is. One girl stayed in the water and stared at me with scared eyes. Her hair floated around her like a midnight halo, and her white face looked like a star in the sky. "Hello?" I said. You're Buffalo," she said, and her voice was like flute notes in the air. "He's sitting on my clothes." "Oh," I said, and I quickly pushed him over. On the ground, crushed and a little muddy, was a blue silk dress. As I lifted it, the softness made me ashamed of my rough hands. "Here," I said, bringing the dress to the edge of the lake. She looked at me, hesitating. "I won't look," I said, and I placed the dress on the ground and walked a bit away with my back turned. I heard her slip out of the water and heard the rustle of silk as she put on her clothes. "Thank you," she said. "You can turn around now." And when I turned around, a girl was smiling at me. She was my age, but she was prettier than any girl I had ever seen before. Even paintings of princesses were ugly compared to her. "I didn't mean to scare you," I said. "My buffalo was just thirsty." "I guess so," she said, and she laughed like tinkling bells as we watched my big lumbering buffalo make his way to the water. "I can't believe my sisters just left me like that. I'm the youngest too. They're supposed to watch me. But I'm glad they didn't, because now I can talk to you. Tell me all about you. Does your buffalo go with you everywhere?" And just like that, we became good friends. She wanted to know everything about me and wasn't snobbish or anything. In fact, a lot of the time she sighed and said she wished she had my freedom. I have to go before they miss me, she sighed. I wish I could stay here. Where I live, I'm not allowed to do anything. There's always someone watching, telling me what to do, and it's kind of lonely. Well, visit me, I told her. We can have lots of fun together. I'll try, she promised. And she kept her promise. Like she said, it was hard for her to get away, but every night on the full moon when she visits her grandfather, she stops here. Sometimes she can only stay for a little while. Sometimes she can stay for hours. Whenever I see her, we laugh enough to last for the month. She's my best friend, and someday when we're old enough, I'm going to talk her into staying here forever. And she should be coming tonight, the buffalo boy said, and his smile was bright and broad. Oh, can I meet her? Minley said. It was funny how the buffalo boy's whole manner changed when he talked about her. His vaguely mocking attitude and tough expression washed away, and he lit up like a lantern. She was glad the boy had come into his life, other than the buffalo. The boy looked troubled. She's really shy around other people, he said, and I think she's afraid if anyone sees her. Her family might find out that she stops here instead of going straight to her grandfather's. They're really strict with her. I won't bother her then, Minley said. Do you want me to leave? No, you can just stay with the buffalo, he said. She told me last time that this visit would have to be fast anyway. She was behind on her work, so they will expect her back quickly. Work? Minley asked. What does she do? She weaves and spins thread, the boy said. That's what she brings to her grandfather when she visits. Thread that she spins. Hey, I know. I'll ask her how you can see the king. She'll know. How will a weaving girl know about the king? Minley asked. Does she live in the inner city? No, she lives far away, the boy said vaguely, but she knows lots of things. Minley shrugged. It didn't seem likely to her that a friend of the buffalo boy would know how she could see the king, but as she didn't have any ideas of her own, she would hope.